Hello, I'm your reporter today. So I would like to discuss what is health psychology. Health psychology emphasizes psychology's role in promoting maintaining health and preventing and treating illness. Because of the inevitable nature of stress, understanding the factors involved in managing the factors involved the managing stress and critical to maintaining healthy bodies and healthy minds. This health psychology focuses on cognitive, emotional, behavioral, and social factors affecting health. And about behavioral medicine, it is an interdisciplinary field that focuses on developing and integrating behavioral and biomedical knowledge to promote health and reduce illness. Because 7 of the 10 leading causes of death in the United States are due to the absence of the healthy behavior health. Psychology is emerging as a viable and vital field within psychology. Behavioral medicine is focuses understanding behavioral factors contributing to health and illness.
Hello everyone, so today I am going to talk about stress and its sources. First is the type A behavior pattern, which was originally described by cardiologists Friedman and Rosenman in the 1950s as a behavior pattern characterized by agitation, hostility, rapid speech, and extremely competitive nature. In the 1960s and 70s, many studies were conducted to probe the relationship between type A behavior and a heart disease. Most of the studies revealed a correlation between type A behavior and coronary heart disease in both men and women, which is comparable and independent of the effects of smoking and hypertension. For example, 2 major studies obtained results supporting the findings that type A behavior is a risk factor for heart disease. Those individuals who were identified as type A were more likely to have developed heart disease over the course of 8.5 years of the study than the type B group. The Framingham Heart Study also showed that type A behavior was a predictor of coronary heart disease among white-collar men and women who worked outside of the home. Second is hardiness. This refers to a personality style characterized by a sense of commitment, control, and a perception of problems as challenges. When hardiness is coupled with social support, hardy individuals' incidences of illness drop off dramatically. They believe that they can control the situation and learn from the problem. Individuals high in hardiness have shown better performance under stress in a range of demanding environments and occupations such as the military, academia, sport, and businesses. Third, perception of problems as challenges is related to cognitive appraisal. Persons who view events as harmful or threatening experience more difficulty managing stress, while those viewing problems as challenges manage their stress more effectively. According to Lazarus and Folkman's 1984 theory of cognitive appraisal and coping, the individual's response to any stressor is processed through 2 cognitive appraisals: the primary and secondary appraisal, resulting in the selection of coping strategies by the individual to deal with the stressor. Sense of personal control can help buffer or reduce damage the effects of stress and lead to more adaptive problem solving, whether the stress comes from major events or from daily hassles. Fifth is when you feel overwhelmed with stressors, it can lead to burnout. Burnout is a hopeless, helpless feeling that leaves one in a state of mental and physical exhaustion. Having to make difficult choices can result in conflict, which creates stress. Burnout is a state of complete mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion. If you are experiencing burnout, you may notice it is difficult to engage in activities you normally find meaningful, such as going to school. Before, you like to go to school, you like to learn, but eventually, you became mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted because of the workload or academic load, and it can lead you to burnout, which is understandable, and burnout creates stress. So, yeah. Sixth is stress is also produced by acculturation. Acculturation is the continuous and first-hand contact between two distinct cultural groups. Acculturation is the process of cultural modification that happens when people adapt to or borrow traits from other cultures. Acculturation can result in assimilation, integration, segregation, and marginalization. Lastly is poverty. Poverty is generally associated with threatening and uncontrolled life events. In addition, poverty undermines sources of social support, which reinforces a sense of powerlessness. Poverty-related stress is a type of chronic stress that can result from the ongoing struggle to meet basic needs and maintain security. It can cause a number of mental health problems, including anxiety, depression, and despair. That's it for stress and its sources.
Today, we're going to discuss the stress response. The stress response or fight or flight response is the emergency reaction system of the body. It is there to keep you safe in emergencies. The stress response includes physical and thought responses to your perception of various situations. So, ang stress response o ang tinatawag na fight or flight response ay parang emergency alarm ng ating katawan. Kapag may nararamdaman kang panganib o stress, automatic na nagre-react ang katawan mo para protektahan ka. Kapag nasa stressful situation ka, halimbawa may biglang aso na tumahol at parang aatake, dalawang bagay ang pwedeng mangyari sa katawan mo. Fight, handang lumaban ang katawan mo, magiging mas alerto ka, mas mabilis kang gumalaw at kaya mong magdesisyon ng mabilis. Flight, kung masyado namang delikado, handa kang tumakbo o umiwas para mailigtas ang sarili mo. So, stress response has three types. First is the General Adaptation Syndrome. A General Adaptation Syndrome or GAS describes the process your body goes through when you are exposed to any kind of stress, positive or negative. So, ang General Adaptation Syndrome ay nagpapaliwanag kung paano nagre-react ang katawan mo or natin kapag nakakaranas tayo ng stress, mapapositive man o negative. So, ang GAS ay may tatlong stages. First is the alarm stage. Kapag unang naramdaman ang stress, nag-a-activate ang fight or flight response ng katawan mo. Halimbawa, biglang may deadline sa quiz bukas, kaya mabilis kang nag-iisip at naging alerto. And that is the alarm stage. Second is the resistance stage. Kapag tuloy-tuloy ang stress, sinasanay ng katawan mo ang sarili para harapin ito. Halimbawa, kung maraming araw kang may deadlines, tinutulungan ka ng katawan mo na manatiling productive at focus. Pero, mas mabilis kang mapapagod dahil ginagamit mo na ang energy reserves mo. And that is the resistance stage. Ang pangatlong stage naman is exhaustion stage. Kung hindi magre-resolve ang stress at magpapatuloy ito, maubos ang energy ng katawan mo. So, ang result niya is pwedeng mag-lead ito sa physical or mental health problems tulad ng sobrang pagod, pagkahilo, depression o sakit. Halimbawa, kapag napasobra ang work o aral, biglang magkakasakit tayo o mawawalan tayo ng gana sa lahat. At yan yung exhaustion stage. So, simpleng payo, kung nasa stress stage ka, importante ang magpahinga at humanap ng paraan para i-manage ang stress gaya ng pag-relax, pag-exercise o paghingi ng tulong sa iba. Pero, wag namang pasobrahan. So, the second type of stress response is the fight or flight, then and befriend. First is the fight or flight. Si Hans Selye ang nagmumungkahi ng konsepto ng General Adaptation Syndrome noong 1936. Sa paliwanag niya, may tatlong phases ang katawan kapag dumaan sa stress. First is the adaptation phase or resistance stage. Kapag tumagal ang stress, sinusubukan ng katawan mong mag-adjust para hanapin ito. Kahit pagod ka na, nagpapatuloy ka pa ring maging productive. Halimbawa, pag may sunod-sunod na exams, nagiging functional ka pa rin kahit stress ka na. And that is the adaptation phase. Next is the alarm phase. Kapag unang na-stress, nagre-react ang katawan sa shock. Nasya-shock tayo bigla-bigla. Tumataas ang adrenaline, bumibilis ang tibok ng puso, at naghahanda ang katawan para sa fight or flight response. Halimbawa, kapag biglang may deadline, mabilis kang magpanik at nagiging alerto. Or, let's just say, nagkakram ka na. And that is the alarm phase. So, next is the then and befriend. Ang then and befriend theory ay nagpapaliwanag kung paano nagre-react ang mga tao sa stress o banta sa paraang mas nakatuon sa pag-aalaga or tend at paghanap ng suporta, befriend, mula sa iba. Kapag ang tao ay nasa stressful na sitwasyon, imbis na lumaban o tumakas, fight or flight, lalo na ang mga babae, mas pinipili nilang mag-alaga ng mga mahal sa buhay tulad ng anak para masigurong ligtas sila, or maghanap ng koneksyon o tulong mula sa iba para magkaisa laban sa problema. And that is the then and befriend theory. So, bakit ba ganito? So, ayon kay kina Taylor at sa mga researchers, may biological system ang mga tao na nagre-regulate ng ating social behaviors. Para itong thirst, natural sa tao na maghanap ng connection sa iba kapag nasa panganib. Particular daw ito sa mga babae dahil historically, ang papel nila ay mag-alaga ng mga anak at bumuo ng suporta mula sa kanilang social circle. So, halimbawa, kapag may sakuna tulad ng lindol, inuuna ng isang nanay na iligtas ang kanyang mga anak bago ang sarili niya. And that is done. And befriend, kapag may malaking problema, hahanapin natin ng pamilya o kaibigan para makakuha ng emotional support o tulong. Ang pinagmula ng theory na ito ay napansin ang pattern na ito sa mga hayop sa laboratory. Kapag na-stress o natakot ang mga hayop, hindi sila basta-basta lumalaban. Sa halip, inaatake nila ang isa't isa o nagpapakita ng pag-aalaga. Sa tao naman, mas madalas silang magtulungan at maghanap ng koneksyon para malampasan ang hirap. Ang then and befriend ay nagpapakita na natural sa tao ang pagiging social beings. Hindi lang para sa sarili, kundi para din sa iba. So, para malaman kung ano nga ba kung paano mag-respond ang lalaki sa babae, ayon sa ilang mga psychologists, may basic na pagkakaiba sa paraan ng mga react ng mga lalaki at babae sa social stress. Para sa mga lalaki, ang response nila ay fight or flight, habang sa mga babae, ang response ay then and befriend. So, fight or flight ay para sa mga lalaki. Ayon kay Walter Cannon, isang physiologist na pioneer ng stress research, ang flight or flight ay isang natural na response sa stress hindi lang sa mga tao kundi pati na rin sa mga hayop. Ang response na ito ay pinapalakas ng sympathetic nervous system na siyang nagkokontrol sa mga automatic functions ng katawan tulad ng paghinga, pagtaas ng heart rate at pagtaas ng blood pressure. Kapag nasa stress, nagiging alerto ang katawan mo at pinaghahanda ka para harapin ang banta o lumaban. That is fight o tumakas, flight. Halimbawa, kung may masamang tao, ang lalaki ay maaaring lumaban o tumakas para maprotektan ang sarili. And Beten and Brefen ay para naman sa mga babae. Sa kabilang banda, ang mga babae ay mas inclined na maghanap ng tulong mula sa iba at mag-alaga. Sa halip na magpanik o mag-fight, makipaglaban, naghahanap sila ng koneksyon sa pamilya at kaibigan o inaalagaan ng kanilang mga anak. Halimbawa, kung may stress sa buhay, isang babae ay maaaring maghanap ng emotional support mula sa pamilya at mag-focus sa pag-aalaga ng mga pamilya mag-focus sa pag-aalaga ng mga mahal sa buhay. So, the third type of stress response is the cognitive appraisal. So, ang cognitive appraisal ay ang paraan ng pagsusuri ng utak natin sa isang sitwasyon kung saan binibigyan natin ito ng kahulugan at personal na halaga. Paano nga ba nauugnay ang stress sa cognitive appraisal? So, ayon kay Lazarus, ang stress ay isang two-way process. Ibig sabihin, ang stress ay hindi lang galing sa mga stressors, mga bagay o sitwasyon na nagdudulot ng stress, kundi pati na rin sa kung paano tayo nagre-respond o nagre-react sa mga stressors na iyon. Kaya, hindi lang ang stressful situation ang mahalaga, kundi pati na rin ang pag-unawa natin sa sitwasyon at kung paano ito nauugnay sa ating buhay. So, ang cognitive appraisal ay may dalawang hakbang. Una ay ang primary appraisal. Sa unang hakbang, tinatanong natin ang sarili natin, banta ba ito sa akin? Like, sign ba ito? Halimbawa, kung may lindol, ang unang hakbang ay pagtatanong kung dangerous ba ito sa ating kaligtasan. Kung oo, stressor ito. Kung hindi, hindi ito naging stressor. So, yan yung primary appraisal. Second na hakbang is the secondary appraisal. Pagkatapos magdesisyon kung ito ay banta, ang second step ay tanungin, may magagawa ba akong paraan para harapin ito? Halimbawa, kung nalaman mong may banta, halimbawa sa lindol, titingnan mo kung may paraan ka bang makaligtas o makapaghanda. Kung wala kang magagawa. Tataas ang stress, pero kung may plano kang gawin tulad ng pagtakbo sa safe na lugar, mabawasan ang stress mo. And that is the dalawang hakbang ng cognitive appraisal.
So, hi guys! Today I'll talk about anxiety, cancer, depression, and heart disease. So first, anxiety. What is anxiety? Anxiety is a natural human response to stress characterized by feelings of fear, worry, and unease. So, anxiety serves as a survival mechanism triggering the body's fight, flight, or freeze response when faced with perceived threats. To understand more about anxiety, there are normal anxiety and anxiety disorder. Normal anxiety is occasional feelings of anxiety are common and often related to specific events such as yung public speakings, exams, or yung mga job interviews. And some anxiety disorder naman is when anxiety becomes persistent, intense, and interferes with daily life. It may be indicate of an anxiety disorders. There are types of anxiety disorder. First is the generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD. People with GAD experience persistent, pervasive feelings of anxiety or dread that lack a specific focus. They may worry excessively about everyday issues, finding it difficult to relax or sleep. Sila yung mga tao na grabe maka-overthink sa lahat ng mga bagay to the point na mahirapan sila matulog or makarelax. Then, number 2, panic disorder. Individuals with panic disorder experience frequent and unexpected panic attacks which involve intense fear and physical symptoms such as rapid heartbeat, shortness of breath, and dizziness. These attacks can be triggered by specific events or occur without apparent cause. Yung parang bigla na lang sila magtahimik or bigla na lang sila mag-iyak. Yeah. Then number 3 is specific phobias. Specific phobias involves an intense fear of particular objects or situations such as height, spiders, or enclosed spaces. This fear is often relational or disproportionate to the actual threat. Just like, yung parang kakaroon na lang sila bigla ng phobia sa kahit na ano. Then, agoraphobia. Agoraphobia involves fear of and avoidance of places or situations where escapes might be difficult or help unavailable in cases of emergency. Sila yung mga tao na like takot sa mga crowds, sa open spaces, or sa mga public transportation. Stop mo muna. Next is the social anxiety disorder. It is an intense fear of social situations and negative judgment from others. So, ito yung natatakot sila makipag-socialize sa ibang tao kasi tatakot sila kung ano yung masasabi sa kanila ng ibang tao. The next is the separation anxiety disorder. Ito yung anxiety disorder na takot sila na ma-separate sila sa loved one nila. Then, next is the selective mutism. Selective mutism is a childhood disorder where an individual is unable to stick in a certain situations, such as a school. Is the causes of anxiety disorder. First is the genetic predisposition. Ito yung like na-inherit nila yung anxiety disorder na yun from their own parents. Then number 2 is the brain structure and function. Ito yung individuals na may anxiety disorder na may overactive sila na amygdala. Amygdala is the part of brain that is responsible for processing fear and threat. The next is the life experience. Ito yung mga traumas nila nung bata sila na na-develop na na-form into anxiety. Yung mga child abuse, mga ganon. The next is the substance use. Ito yung mga some substance such as stimulant, drugs can trigger anxiety. Yung mga gagamit ng drugs. The next is the medical conditions. Ito yung certain medical conditions such as thyroid problems or hormonal imbalance na makakontribute siya na makaform ng anxiety. So next is cancer. What is cancer? Cancer is a broad term encompassing a large group of disease characterized by uncontrolled growth and spread of abnormal cells. So there are types of cancer. First is the carcinomas. Carcinomas are originated from epithelial cells which line organs and body cavities. Ito yung common type siya ng cancer including the lung, breast, the colon, prostate, and the skin cancers. Next is the sarcomas. These arise from connective tissues such as the bone, muscles, cartilage, and the fat. They are the less frequent than carcinomas. The next is leukemias. These are the cancers affect the blood-forming cells in the bone marrow. Nag-lead siya ng overproduction of abnormal white blood cells. The next is the lymphomas. These are the cancers developed in the cells of lymphatic system, which plays a crucial role in the immune response. So, may two types ng lymphoma. The Hodgkin lymphoma and the non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Then, next is myeloma. These are the cancer originated in plasma cells, a type of white blood cell responsible for producing antibodies. The next is the central nervous system cancers. Ito yung cancers na nag-affect sa brain natin and sa spinal cord. This is the causes of cancer. First is the genetic mutation. Ito yung mga genes na namamana natin sa parent natin na may cancer. The next is the carcinogens. Ito yung exposure sa environmental carcinogens such as sa tobacco smoke, sa radiation, sa UV, sa X-rays, yan. Then, lifestyle factors. Ito yung unhealthy lifestyle, like hindi pag-exercise, yung pagkain ng mga unhealthy foods. Then, next is the infectious agents. Ito yung viruses and bacteria na sa specific cancers. Example nun is yung sa human papillomavirus. Yun siya is a cervical cancer. Then, ang Helicobacter pylori is a stomach cancer, and Epstein-Barr virus are sa certain na lymphomas. Then, next is the age. Ito yung risk of most cancer increase with age, reflecting the cumulative effect of genetic damage and environmental exposures over time. Ito yung pag-expose mo sa environment mo. So next is depression. So what is depression? Depression is also known as a major depressive disorder or clinical depression. It is a common and serious mood disorder that negatively affect how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. Ito yung kasunod ng anxiety, yung anxiety na hindi mo na makontrol na to the point na mag-abot na siya sa depression. So, there are symptoms of depression. So, first is the persistent sadness or low mood. Like, everyday ka nang sad or wala ka sa mood parati. Ganyan. The next is the loss of interest or pleasure. Yung, like, mawalan ka na ng gana sa lahat-lahat ng bagay. Then, next is change in appetite or weight. Ito yung significant na mag-weight loss ka or mag-weight gain ka or changes in appetite. Then, next is the sleep disturbance. Ito na yung magkaroon ka na ng insomnia, yung mahirapan ka na matulog. Ito din yung kabaliktaran ng insomnia, yung hypersomnia. Ito yung sobra ka na ng tulog na hindi mo pansin. Ganyan. Then, yung yung disruptive sleep patterns. The next is fatigue or loss of energy. Ito yung parang wala kang energy sa araw mo kahit na kakagising mo lang wala kang energy, ganyan. The next is the restlessness or irritability. Yung feeling agitated, restless, or madali ka na lang ma-irritate sa mga bagay-bagay. Then next is the feeling of worthlessness or excessive guilt. Ito yung parang nasobrahan ka na sa feeling of guilt or naga-self-blame ka na. Next is difficulty concentrating, remembering, or making decision. Ito yung parang halimbawa, ga-review ka, mahirapan ka na makakonsentrate sa gina-review mo. Ganun. Tapos, mahirapan ka din na alalahanin if ano yung gi-review mo. Then, mahirapan ka din maggawa ng sarili mong desisyon. The next is the recurrent thought of death or suicide. Ito yung depression na nag-aabot ka na sa point na ganun.
And also, if you're having thoughts about death or suicidal thoughts, it is okay to reach out to other people or seek for professional help. Always remember that you matter and your mental health should come first before anything else.
Causes of depression. First is the genetic factors. Family history of depression increase the risk. Brain chemistry is the imbalances in neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine. Next is the life events. Ito yung mga stressful life events, gaya na mawalan ka ng mahal sa buhay, traumas, ganun. The next is the medical condition. Certain medical conditions such as thyroid problems or hormonal imbalances. Next is the personality traits. Certainly, Personality traits such as neuroticism may increase vulnerability to depression.
Heart disease, a term encompassing a range of conditions affecting the heart, possess a significant threat to global health. It is a leading cause of death worldwide, and its impact extends beyond mortality, affecting quality of life and healthcare costs. This report delves into the various aspects of heart disease, including its types, risk factors, diagnosis, treatment, and prevention. There are several types of heart disease. First is the coronary artery disease, or CAD. This is the most prevalent type, characterized by the buildup of plaque, cholesterol, fat, and other substances within the coronary arteries, which supply blood to the heart muscle. This buildup, known as atherosclerosis, narrows the arteries, restricting the blood flow and increasing the risk of angina or chest pain, heart attack, and heart failure. Next is heart failure. This occurs when the heart cannot pump enough blood to meet the body's needs. It is often a consequence of other heart conditions such as CAD, high blood pressure, or heart valve problems. Heart failure can lead to shortness of breath, fatigue, and swelling in the legs and ankles. Third is arrhythmias. These are irregular heartbeats, ranging from occasional palpitations to life-threatening conditions. Arrhythmias can be caused by various factors, including heart disease, electrolyte imbalances, and certain medications. They can lead to dizziness, fainting, and even sudden cardiac arrest. Heart valve disease. This involves problems with the heart's valves, which control the flow of blood through the heart. Valves may become narrowed, leaky, or prolapse. These issues can strain the heart and lead to heart failure or stroke. Fifth, congenital heart defects. These are structural abnormalities present at birth. They can range from minor to life-threatening. Congenital heart defects often require surgery or other interventions. And lastly, cardiomyopathy. This involves diseases of the heart muscle itself, weakening its ability to pump blood effectively. Various types exist, including dilated, hypertrophic, and restrictive cardiomyopathy. Cardiomyopathy can lead to heart failure and arrhythmias.
Next is the risk factors of heart disease. Number 1. High blood pressure or hypertension. It is the sustained high blood pressure damages blood vessels, increasing the risk of CAD, stroke, and other cardiovascular problems. Number 2. High cholesterol elevates the levels of LDL or bad cholesterol, contribute to plaque build-up in the arteries, leading to atherosclerosis. Diabetes. Diabetes increases the risk of CAD, stroke, and other heart complications due to its impact on blood vessels and blood sugar control. Then, number 4 is the smoking. Smoking damages blood vessels, increase blood pressure and cholesterol level, and contribute to plaque buildup and significantly increasing the risk of CAD, stroke, and other cardiovascular problems. Number 5 is the obesity. Obesity is the link of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes, all of which increase heart disease risk. Number 6 is the physical inactivity. Ito yung lack of regular physical activities like na kulang ka sa exercise. Next is the family history. Ito yung meron sa family nyo ang may heart disease na mana mo din siya. Next is the age. The risk of heart disease increases with the age due to the cumulative effects of wear and tear on the cardiovascular system. And lastly is the gender. Men generally have a higher risk of heart disease than women, but the risk increases for women after menopause.
Coping is how we try to deal with stress. It is a widely studied topic in psychology, and there are over 400 categorized styles of coping. These styles are commonly grouped into two distinct types: the problems focus versus emotion focus. So let us define first what is the coping. A coping, ito yung mga effort o pagsusumikap ng isang tao natin, pagsusumikap natin upang pamamahalaan ang mga sitwasyon o bagay na nagiging dahilan ng stress. Ibig sabihin, coping ang tawag sa paraan sa pagtugon natin kapag tayo ay may stress. So, ang coping strategies ay madalawang pangunahing klase. First is the problem-focused coping at emotion-focused coping. So, ang coping ay simpleng paraan kung paano natin hinaharap ang stress o mga problemang nagiging pabigat sa atin. Para bang may mga paraan tayo ng pagpapagaan o pagpapalakas sa sarili upang makayanan ang mga hamon sa buhay. So, let us discuss first yung unang uri ng coping strategies. It is the problem-focused coping. Sa problem-focused coping, ang focus ay sa pag-ayos ng problema. Kapag may stress o problema, tinitingnan ng tao kung ano ang magagawa para malutas ito. Halimbawa, kung may project deadline, magfo-focus ka sa pag-organize at pagplano para matapos ito sa oras. And kung may problema rin sa relationship, nag-uusap kayo at hinahanap ang solusyon sa hindi pagkakaintindihan. Next is the emotion-focused coping, yung pangalawang uri ng coping strategies. Sa emotion-focused coping, ang focus ay sa paghawak ng emotions natin. Hindi ang pagsosolve ng problema, kundi ang pag-cope up sa mga nararamdaman na dulot ng stress. Halimbawa, kung may problema pero wala kang magawa, mas iniisip mo kung paano i-handle ang emotions mo tulad ng pagkabigo o pagkabahala. Another example is, kung may pagkatalo ka sa isang competition, maaari kang maghanap ng mga paraan para magpatahan sa sarili mo, mag-exercise o magpakasay sa ibang activities para ma-reduce ang stress. So, in summary, ang problem-focused coping ay nakatutok sa pagsolusyon ng problema mismo. And ang emotion-focused coping is naman ay nakatutok sa paghawak ng mga emotions na dulot ng stress. Kapag stress tayo, minsan nagiging combination ng dalawang ito ang coping style natin, depende sa sitwasyon. Next is the good mood. A good mood or a positive mood is usually defined as a generally positive state. Although people usually cannot pinpoint exactly why they are in a good mood, feeling physically well, getting a good night's rest, a lack of stress, and positive social interactions are a few factors that might contribute to a positive mood. So, ang good mood ay isang generally positive feeling. Parang ang saya-saya mo lang, pero hindi mo agad alam kung ano yung dahilan. Minsan, kahit wala ka namang special na dahilan, basta magaan lang ang pakiramdam mo. Ganun. So, ang mga factors na maaaring nakakatulong sa good mood is, first is the good physical health. Kung maganda ang pakiramdam ng katawan mo, walang sakit, hindi pagod, mas malaki ang posibilidad na magaan ang mood mo. Example, kung wala kang sakit at malusog ka, mas malamang na magandang mood mo. Second naman is good sleep, tamang pagtulog. Ang tamang paghinga o pagkakaroon ng sapat na tulog ay may malaking epekto sa ating mood. Kapag well-rested tayo, mas magaan ang pakiramdam at mas positibo. Example, kung nakakatulog ka ng 8 oras at hindi pagod, mas maganda ang pakiramdam mo sa buong araw. So, next, so in summary, a good mood is caused by things like good health, sufficient sleep, a lack of stress, and a positive social experiences. Often, even though we don't know the exact reason, these simple things help us make us feel light and happy. So next is the optimistic attitude. An optimism is a mental attitude characterized by hope and confidence in success and a positive future. Optimists tend to view hardships as learning experiences or temporary setbacks. Even the most miserable day holds the promise for them that tomorrow will probably better. So optimistic attitudes are linked to several benefits, including better coping skills, lower stress levels, better physical health, and higher persistence when pursuing goals. So, ang optimistic attitude ay isang positibong pananaw sa buhay kung saan naniniwala ang isang tao na magtatagumpay siya at makakamtan ang mga layunin niya. Kahit pa may mga challenges na or hamon na dumarating, ang mga tao na may optimistic attitude ay tinitingnan ang mga problema bilang mga pansamantalang hadlang o mga pagkakataon na matuto imbes na maging permanenteng sagabal sa kanilang tagumpay. So, ang optimistic attitude ay isang positibong pananaw sa buhay kung saan naniniwala ang isang tao na magtatagumpay talaga siya. Ang halimbawa nito is si Almira. Si Almira nahihirapan sa kanyang exams at feeling niya hindi siya handa. Ngunit sa halip na mag-dwell sa mga negative na thoughts, iniisip niyang kahit mahirap ngayon, makakapasa din ako. Ganun. Naniniwala siya na kung magsisikap siya, kahit na may setbacks, magiging maganda ang resulta sa huli. At yan ang halimbawa ng optimistic attitude. Next is the cognitive restructuring. So, a cognitive restructuring involves modifying maladaptive thoughts, ideas, and beliefs that maintain an individual's problem. Cognitive restructuring techniques deconstruct unhelpful thoughts and rebuild them in a more balanced and accurate way. So, ang cognitive restructuring ay ang proseso ng pagbabago sa mga negative thoughts at paniniwala na nagpapamaintain ng problema sa buhay ng isang tao. So, paano ba gumagana ang cognitive restructuring? Minsan, may mga tao na may mga negatibong pag-iisip na paulit-ulit na. Ito ay nagiging habit o pattern sa kanilang isipan na maaaring makasira ng relasyon, mapabagsak sa kanilang mga achievements o magdulot ng mental health problems. Halimbawa, kung may isang tao na laging nag-iisip ng wala akong silbi, ito ay isang negative thought pattern na nakaka-apekto sa buhay nila. So, yan yung halimbawa ng cognitive restructuring. Ang cognitive restructuring ay nakatutok sa pagtulong sa mga tao na makita at baguhin ang mga maling pag-iisip na ito. Halimbawa nito is, imbis na magsabi ng wala akong silbi, tinuturuan ng tao na palitan ito ng may halaga ako at may mga bagay akong kayang gawin. At yan ang cognitive restructuring. So, halimbawa rin ito, si Marie ay laging nag-iisip na hindi siya magaling tuwing may bagong task sa trabaho. Sa tulong ng cognitive restructuring, tinuruan siyang baguhin ang pag-iisip na ito. Sa halip na mawalan ng pag-asa, natutunan niyang sabihin sa sarili, kahit mahirap, may pagkakataon akong matutunan ito at magtagumpay. And that is the cognitive restructuring. Next is the self-talk. Self-talk generally refers to a person's inner voice It is a mix of conscious and unconscious beliefs they hold about themselves and the world. These beliefs can be positive or negative, and most people experience instances of both. So, a self-talk, ano nga ba nakaka-apekto ito sa atin? So, sa self-talk, may dalawang uri siya, the positive self-talk and the negative self-talk. First is the positive self-talk. Ang mga positibong self-talk statements ay maaaring magdulot ng proteksyon at tulong sa ating emotional at mental health. Halimbawa, kapag ikaw ay nag-iisip ng kaya ko ito, nakakatulong itong magbigay ng confidence sa atin at lakas ng loob upang magpatuloy sa mahirap na task. Halimbawa rin ito is kung ikaw may exam at nagsasabi sa sarili na nag-aaral ako kaya kaya ko ito. Makakatulong din ito para maging kalmado at makafocus tayo sa exam. At yan yung positive self-talk. Next is the negative self-talk. Negatibong pag-uusap sa sarili. So, ang negatibong self-talk statements tulad ng hindi ko kaya ay maaaring magdulot ng pagkawala ng tiwala sa sarili at makasira ng mga layunin. Kung laging ganito ang iniisip ng isang tao, maaaring maging mahirap para sa kanya na magtagumpay. Halimbawa, kung lagi mong iniisip, wala akong talento, ito ay nakakasira ng iyong self-esteem at maaaring pigilan ka sa paggawa ng mga bagay na gusto mong makamit. Yan yung negative self-talk. Next is the happy person, someone who experiences frequent positive emotions such as joy, interest, and pride, and infrequent negative emotions such as sadness, anger, anxiety, and happiness has also been said to relate to life satisfaction, appreciation of life, and moments of pleasure. But overall, it has to do with the positive combination of emotions. So, understandable naman din yung happy person. And that's all. Thank you.
So hello everyone, so today I'm going to discuss the coping strategy, other types of coping strategies. So the first one is the self-efficacy. So self-efficacy refers to the mastery of their experiences. So it's a type of behavior of a person that is being positive. So self-efficacy is like you know what to do things on your own. So you know yourself more than you are. So kumbaga, like there are things na ihatag sa mo or there are things that you do and you excel in that thing. So it is called self-efficacy. So this also varies in the various perceptions of on how to navigate things and excel on their own. The next is the social support. So social support is the ones who can lean on. So this is the persons who helps you when times of need and crisis. So the ones who support you, cheer you up, or like comfort you. So it is essential man because we are in college, we sometimes or often encounter stresses and depression. So yung mga tao nga mapalapitan nimo is that they are the ones who support you. So they are all your social supporters in life. So the next one is the assertive behavior. So assertive behavior is not aggressive type of a person. So aggressive or assertive behavior is that they are self-centered person. So kumbaga, like inner base or magsabot-sabot mo, like gusto nila ilahalang opinion mag-matter. Dili nila dawato ng opinion sa uban, kay gusto nila ilahalang ang matabo. So they don't have an intention of hurting others, but they are straightforward in their opinions. So the last one is that psychology life in dealing with conflicts. So psychology life in dealing with conflicts refers to the navigation of your emotions. Psychologically, healthy individual acknowledges their strengths and weaknesses and does not act upon impulse. So they are rational but not sensitive. So and then they validate their feelings but does not use it to gain upper hand or manipulate in a situation. So for example, bagsak sa exam, then nag-away kayo ng fam mo. If you are a psychologically healthy person, you acknowledge ang root cause sa imong displacement. So ang root cause sa imong displacement is that mga problems. So nabagsak sa exam because you did not study hard or nag-away ang fam mo to, nagtapok-tapok na ang problema. So if you are psychology healthy person, maging sensitive ka sa mga situation. So what are the things that you do first? Hindi mayo ka sang sorry sila ha, kay you understand the situation you're in. Maybe kapoy pud sila kaya nasuko sila sa imo. So kumbaga ipababa nimo ang imong pride for the sake of others.